Hello everyone, and welcome to today's webinar from me in a very sunny Hastings today. It's just gone 1 o'clock, so I'm just going to give everyone a chance to join. Do feel free to drop into the Q&A box and say hi. We've discovered that the chat feature can cause problems for some people using screen readers, so that's switched off, but the Q&A option is still live. Hello Darius, hiya, glad you can make it today. Hello from Jonathan, Marie. Thanks for joining us. And Jen in Philadelphia. Amazing. Thanks for joining us. So yeah, I think we'll make a start now. So hello everyone, and welcome to our webinar, which is Tech Tools for Dyslexia at Work, in Education and at Home. I'm Annie Mannion and I'm Digital Marketing Manager at AbilityNet, and I'll be running you through today's session, which is taking place during Dyslexia Awareness Week. So we're glad you could make it to mark the occasion. So just to go through a few bits of housekeeping, we have live captions today provided by Christy at MyClearText, and you can turn on the captions using the CC option on the control panel. We have additional captions available via streamtext.net/player?event=AbilityNet, and slides are available at slideshare.net/AbilityNet, and also on our website at abilitynet.org.uk/tech-tools-dyslexia. And then if you have any technical issues or you need to leave early, don't worry, you'll receive an email in a couple of days' time with the recording, the transcript and the slides. And then depending on how you joined the webinar, you'll find the Q&A window. So if you want to ask the panel any questions, do drop those into the Q&A area. And any that we're unable to cover during the live session will be answered on our website at /tech-tools-dyslexia. So anyone who's joined just a bit later, just a reminder, we've switched off the chat feature as we've discovered it can cause problems for some people using screen readers. So do use the Q&A for any comments. And then just finally, we have a feedback survey you'll be directed to at the end. So please do complete that if you're able. So just moving on to the next slide. Thanks, Freya. So for those of you who aren't yet familiar with AbilityNet, we're now celebrating our 25th year this year, and we support older people, disabled people living with any disability or impairment to use technology to achieve their goals at home, at work and in education. And we do this by providing specialist advice, services, accessibility and inclusion testing and training, and free information like our fact sheets and this webinar. So today we're going to be discussing the tips and tools for tech adjustments that could help if you have dyslexia. And to discuss the topic today, we have joining us Catherine Parfitt, who is the Head of Accredited Training at the British Dyslexia Association. And joining Catherine is Senior Accessibility Consultant Team Leader at AbilityNet, Rena Wharton, who is here, but she's chosen not to be on camera as it helps with her dyslexia to concentrate without being on screen. And finally, we also have Adam Tweed, who is a Senior Workplace and Education Consultant here at AbilityNet too. So hopefully by the end of today, you'll all have collected some very useful pointers to take away to use in action. So I'm just going to start with a poll to find out about you all before we begin the webinar content. So I'll just launch that now. So can you tell us what best describes your reason for attending today? I'm dyslexic and I'm here to learn about how tech can help me. I'm here to learn how tech can help someone I know. I'm here as a professional to learn how tech can help a client that I work with, or I'm here to learn about tech and dyslexia in general, or I'm here for another reason. So feel free to share why in the Q&A area. And just to note, depending on how you've joined the webinar, you may find you can't see the poll, but you can respond in the Q&A panel. So I'm just going to leave a few moments for anybody that wants to vote. Nearly everybody. Okay, I'm going to end the poll now and share the results. Okay, so you can see the bulk of responses, so 55% of you are here as a professional to learn how tech can help a client or employee or a student that you work with. And then I'm here to learn more about tech and dyslexia in general. That's 19% of you. And then 12% say I'm dyslexic and here to learn how tech can help me. And then I'm here to learn how tech can help someone I know, a relative or a friend. That's 10%. And then 4% are here for another reason. Okay, so thank you. We'll do another poll later on. Okay. So now I'd like to introduce AbilityNet's Adam Tweed, who will be sharing some useful ideas for adjustments that you can make with your tech that can make a difference if you have dyslexia. And he'll also outline some suggestions for reasonable adjustments in the workplace and in education. So over to you, Adam.
Thank you very much, Annie. I'm just going to get the slideshow up so I can see where we are. But yes, I'm Adam Tweed. I'm just going to take you through some of the reasonable adjustments and some of the tech tools that you have built into your computers that you can start using immediately. So we just go to the next slide. In terms of reasonable adjustments, so these are adjustments, soft adjustments that you can make within any workplace. And the key ones that I've really brought out here from my time assessing as a needs assessor, both for students and within the workplace. So some key ones here are giving a reasonable time or removing time restrictions. So really have a think about the sorts of activities that you're carrying out and the sorts of requirements you've got of students, of employees, in terms of reading in particular. And whether you need the time restrictions at all. We have things like the universal adjustment. So providing everybody with an ample space of time eliminates the need for a person to identify themselves as requiring that extra time. So that's ideally what we'd be looking for. So think about how long it would be to reasonably read and absorb information, and then think about just giving that little buffer to everybody so nobody's forced to kind of out themselves if they don't wish to. Provide alternative formats. So again, normalize the use of technology to achieve a task. It's something that I hope I'm going to be able to demo in a minute, and I do put hope. So yeah, what we want to do here again is remove the need for people to have to self-identify in order to access basic support for things like dyslexia. And then demonstrate. So enable choice around how you get information across to somebody. So show or tell somebody how to do something rather than just providing written instructions. Give them that choice as to whether that might suit them better. Certainly, I'm somebody who learns quite well from being shown something. I don't consider myself to be dyslexic, but I do prefer to see something done so that I can follow along. So what it really comes down to is enabling choice, building an environment in which a person can use their own strategies. Now, the best person to tell you how to manage dyslexia in education or in the workplace is the individual who is managing dyslexia in education and the workplace. They're going to know how they work best. So all you really have to do is make sure they're not restricted in doing this. So, for example, allowing the use of things like spelling and grammar tools, things like text-to-speech and speech-to-text, which I'll demonstrate in just a second, and then accessing tools and settings to adjust how they work. And if I can just go quickly to the next slide, because speaking of, we have a tool called My Computer, My Way. It's freely available on the AbilityNet website. You can go in there and you can put in something like a condition or a barrier, a difficulty that you're having, or you can just browse through the articles. And what this does is shows you some of the useful settings that you might not know about within your device. So whether that be your smartphone, tablet, computer, and it will show you what you can leverage from the operating system and the accessibility settings that may be there to support you. So now, next slide, very briefly, and then I will take over. We're going for the live demo. I don't know why I do this to myself every single time, but I'm going to focus on some of the inbuilt assistive technology that many people overlook as a really good introduction to the sorts of adjustments you can make that can make a huge difference. So these tools can be presented to employees or students as productivity tools, which can be useful if somebody's struggling with a diagnosis or with admitting they might benefit from a bit of assistance. These tools don't need quotes and purchase orders and installation. They're available immediately. So if you have an employee or student who discloses a difficulty, it could be you can just ask them, have you tried using? It might be that the inbuilt solution is enough to overcome a barrier, or it might be good enough to provide support for the transition until a full workplace assessment or disabled students allowance assessment can be carried out and more specific tailored software can be provided. Transition is also key when we think about the sorts of issues, again, many disabled students face when they enter the workplace. If they've received DSA support, then this is likely to disappear until access to work can be triggered. The two are seldom linked, although there is some hope that they are going to be more closely aligned. But yeah, it's that crucial first couple of weeks in a job that an individual is going to be trying to get up to speed without the sorts of software that supported them in higher education or further education. So awareness of this inbuilt support can be just good enough to get over that initial barrier. My personal soapbox is that using free inbuilt software also enables an employee to find out if a solution works for them before you purchase a more expensive third-party solution. It empowers them to say, this works for me, but only up to this point. This is the limitation I've run up against, and that's going to help you with the justification for the more expensive third-party software, the specialist software. Now, a bit of a caveat before I get started. I run similar sessions and they have run smooth as silk on occasions. However, one recent occasion, I think it was the time before last, it didn't go particularly smoothly to the point that I had to record the demos and post them on alongside the recording of the session. So be prepared that there may be some follow-ups if this goes horribly wrong, or I might just direct you to the previous recordings. I don't mind things going wrong. I'm a little bit weird like that, I guess. I actually find it much more fun. I definitely don't want to replace things with safe demo videos. I think it's much more important for everybody to see things not working so that when you try, you're not placed in that, well, how come it worked for him and not for me situation? What am I doing wrong? So we'll give this a go and I'll try to learn from my mistakes and maybe slow down a bit and try not to do too much to begin with. So I'm going to take over the screen share. If I can, Freya, are you able to free that up for me? Anything at the moment? There we go. Right, share screen. And I want to share screen too, and sound. So hopefully you should see my screen with a Word document open. Catherine, can you give me a thumbs up if that's what you're seeing? Perfect. Thank you very much. So first off, I'm going to show you some speech-to-text software. So it's also known as dictation software. Now, I don't know if anybody tried the dictation in Microsoft a while ago. It used to be pretty awful and inaccurate, but the great news is it's improved. It's improved a great deal, although, again, the constant caveat being that it worked fine when I did this in rehearsal. It's bound not to now, it's live. So I'm using the online version of Word, but this dictation is available in the desktop or the app version, as it's now called. And you'll see up on the bar, there is a dictate, and that dictate option will bring up, oh no. Here we go. So here we started already with an issue. So hopefully I can restart that. Bear with me. It may be now that I've started. Look amongst yourselves. There we go. That cold sweat as that stopped working. So I just needed to restart the Word document. It was open a bit. So I'm rambling away. It's one of those things when you demo something, you can never think of what to say. So I'm just going to ramble away. And you can see it's doing a fairly accurate way of kind of transcribing what I'm saying. New paragraph. Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers. Quite fast, it was starting to struggle a little bit. So we can do things like delete, delete. So it takes a moment there to work out that I'm saying a command, but the first time it just deleted the full stop, the period there, and then it deleted the word that I was after. So now let's try some formatting. So select paragraph, bold that, underline, deselect that, select Peter, text color red, highlight yellow, deselect that. So it's missed the highlighting bit there. I'm just going to switch it off there because I want to take it down to another line. But you can see it's pretty accurate. I am obviously speaking quite quickly. It's a webinar, public speaking not being my forte, so therefore I'm rambling a little bit, but I've got a reasonably decent microphone. That's key. So having the right instruments to kind of pick up your voice properly. So good quality microphone is absolutely key. Now, when it comes to dyslexia, one of the things that is a common problem is often the homophones, so words that sound the same but are spelt differently. And this used to be a real issue with the dictation software because it would pick up words individually and wouldn't view them in context. Nowadays, they're not sending their business over there, are they?
Adam, sorry, it's Annie here.
Yes.
Just had a request if you're able to zoom in to the screen just a little bit.
Yeah, so that my words are...
That would be great. Yeah, thank
Perfect.
you.
So yes, you can see there that it's picked up the correct homophones there. So they've got there are 3 versions of their used in that sentence, and it's picked out the correct ones. And you can see it kind of churning away in the background to do that. Not to be left out, I am going to very quickly switch to Google. Google, I was having more problems with earlier. It seems that the transcription with Google is more accurate, but the commands get a little bit more difficult. New line. I'd like to turn this into a heading. Select line. Apply heading 1. Oh, yes, it's worked. Okay, so we will stop that there. So just giving you a flavor of the fact that this dictation software is available in both Google and within Word. And so it's going to be a really kind of useful way of getting ideas out quickly without worrying about things like spelling and with some assistance with things like grammar. Now, the flip side of speech to text is text to speech. And there is one brilliant tool that I'm hoping most of you will have heard of, but I do want to demo it because there are sometimes people who haven't, and it is a great piece of software, and it's called the Immersive Reader. Now, the Immersive Reader I've got here running in, I'm going to use Microsoft Edge to demonstrate it. I've opened up the Mail Online. I'm not making any comments about the politics of this paper. It's just a really good kind of site because it's so busy. There is so much going on. It's distracting and it's very difficult to follow it along sometimes. Normally there'd be adverts running. I don't know if I've got a very good blocker on at the moment. It'd be fantastic if I have. But if I can now go to up at the top. So if I open up a news story, up at the top in my bar next to the URL, you will see there's Enter Immersive Reader. It's a little icon. And if I click on that, it takes away all that junk. It just gives you the reading mode. And then you can switch text preferences. So you can make the text larger. You can increase the spacing, which is often quite useful for somebody who does experience or does have dyslexia. You can change font. So you've got the Calibri, the Sitka, which is a serif font, If there is something deeply, deeply wrong with you, then there's also Comic Sans, if you prefer that one. You can change column styles and themes as well. So this, I know, there is the comorbid condition of Erland syndrome that is separate from dyslexia, but often so commonly co-occurring that the tinting of pages can be particularly useful for people who do experience dyslexia, and we've got a whole load of options here. I do actually use this one because it just takes away that stark contrast. And then finally, for this demonstration, before I hand over, because I'm almost at my 15, you have the option to read aloud. And this is really impressive. And I love this from a perspective of somebody who might just sit at their desk and want the news read out at lunchtime, because the voices are so natural. So I'm just going to play this for you.
Furiat plans for Las Vegas-style 300-feet high crystal ball in Stratford that will be covered in glowing animated adverts for next 25 years, as neighbors blast developers' insulting offer of blackout blinds.
So just slowing that down a bit. Oh, and I just successfully crashed the browser, which probably means that's a good opportunity for me to stop. So thank you very much.
Thanks so much, Adam. Yeah, some great ideas, and hopefully that's given you a good idea of the flavour of some of the things that might be able to help with the common issues you might face. So now I'd like to share some videos that we have within AbilityNet to highlight the experiences some people with dyslexia might face when reading text or performing tasks online. So in the first video, we'll show you a dyslexia simulator video that's from quite a while ago that you can find on our YouTube channel. And it shows an example of the types of experience some people can have viewing text online, but we are keen to stress there's no one size fits all. So this is just a starting point for discussions. So Freya, if you could play that video now, and apologies for the slightly fuzzy sound on the video.
Please press Alt and Enter to view this movie full screen. This video shows a range of visual effects experienced by people with dyslexia. These include word and line movement, such as rivers, whirlpool, glare, overlap, and disappearing text. Also, floating lines. Text reversal. Notice how numbers can easily be confused. Text flow. Fully justified text can cause problems because of the uneven spacing between the words. Left justified text is much easier to read.
Thanks, Freya. So now in the second film, I'd like to introduce my colleague Rena, who contributed her thoughts about dyslexia simulators in a recording in advance of today's session. So she mentions a couple of things that Adam mentioned earlier too. But yeah, if you can play that video, Freya, that would be great. Thank you.
Hiya, my name's Rena. I was diagnosed as dyslexic when I was 17. So today I'll be reviewing some dyslexia simulators. So these simulations can be useful to show how people can experience dyslexia, but because the condition is so wide-ranging and varies so much from person to person, there's so many different characteristics, not all of them can be simulated. So having a simulation could potentially mislead people or oversimplify some of the needs that and challenges that people experience. So using them has to have some kind of caveats front and center. There's value in having them, though, to create some empathy and understanding, or even just to start a conversation around lived experience and how people experience dyslexia. So the first dyslexia simulator I've got here is it's hosted on CodePen by a user called Light. Yeah, so this one changes the letters within the words, so it simulates a very specific element of dyslexia that some people experience. This particular simulator can be helpful for people like teachers or colleagues at work. If someone with dyslexia specifically describes this as a challenge that they face, it can help people to understand how they experience reading written words, but there does need to be a caveat on it that, you know, it just because someone has dyslexia doesn't mean they will view text in this way. Personally, I don't find that words or letters move or dance or change. I don't experience that element of dyslexia. So the next simulator that I'm going to be kind of showing here is called the Web Disability Simulator. So this is a Google Chrome extension that you can get on the Chrome Web Store. And you get a few different options in this one. So we're going to specifically be looking at both this dyslexia option, which is under the read and write drop down, but also the concentration option at the bottom of the list. So if I go ahead and activate the dyslexia option, so you can see that this one's very much like the one that we looked at before on CodePen, in that the letters within the words will change around. The words and letters move around. Again, it's very similar to the previous one that we looked at. It simulates a very specific part of the dyslexic experience that not everyone will experience. Okay, so the other one that I kind of mentioned earlier was this concentration option that's at the bottom of the simulator. So I'm just going to turn this on, and then I'm going to turn it off because it will really distract me. So as you can see, things are moving around, they're getting bigger, they're getting smaller, things kind of pop up in the middle of the screen. It makes it really hard to focus on what you're doing. So I'm going to turn it off now because I can't think while I'm looking at it. So one of the things that I experience is trouble focusing. And so that is, if you get a web page that's like, I'm not going to name names, but certain news sites that have like pop-ups all over the place, adverts, moving images, all of those sorts of things, they're really super distracting, and you can't like focus on what you're looking at. So that out of all of these, that is hands down my favorite simulator. It gives such a great example of how difficult it can be to concentrate on busy websites. So some of the key points that I've kind of discussed today, there is some value in using dyslexia simulators if you're working with someone who has dyslexia, who says that this is kind of representative of their experience. But I think it's really important to remember that these simulators only simulate one small part of the dyslexic experience, and there are a huge number of other challenges that people with dyslexia can experience that aren't in these simulators and can't be simulated themselves. So things like trouble forming sentences and bringing words to mind, you can't really simulate that. So it's just really important to remember that while they can be useful, there are many other elements of dyslexia that aren't included within the simulators.
That's great. Yeah, so hopefully both of those videos give you a flavour of some of the experience that some people with dyslexia might face online, and some of it might ring true to you. And I'll bring Rena in for the discussions in a few minutes. So briefly, over to Catherine Parfitt of the British Dyslexia Association to describe a little about what the charity does, and then we'll have a panel discussion with Adam, Rena and Catherine afterwards.
Hello, so my name's Catherine Parfitt and I'm the Head of Accredited Training for the British Dyslexia Association. And I actually joined the Dyslexia Association only in July this year. And I feel, as a dyslexic myself, really excited to actually be involved with an organisation that, since I think 1972, has kind of been the voice of dyslexic people in the environment. And, you know, not just in schools, but within the workplace and within education as well. This session's being put on this week as part of the Dyslexia Awareness Week. And, you know, our theme for this Dyslexia Awareness Week is about celebrating being uniquely you. And I think both Adam and Rena have touched on this already, you know, in terms of dyslexia isn't just one thing. And I think we'll probably get to talk about that through our questions as well. But what I wanted to do was to just talk to you a little bit about what the Dyslexia Association does. Next slide. So we do have several different arms, and I'll talk a little bit about each of those. But in particular, you know, in terms of today's audience, we do support adults in the workplace through a number of different channels. And, you know, the thing really at the heart of the British Dyslexia Association is about celebrating diversity and supporting those individual differences that those with dyslexia may face. Next slide. So as part of Dyslexia Awareness Week, we've got a number of different webinars, and you know, these are aimed really for different audiences. But we run these kind of webinars not just during Dyslexia Awareness Week, but throughout the year. So, you know, if you just want a quick introduction as to what dyslexia is or how you might be able to help yourself at work or support maybe your child with reading with dyslexia, then that's a really useful starting point. That, you know, the British Dyslexia Association hold these information webinars really just as a kind of taster really for what we offer. So it's always worth looking to see what information is there. And, you know, if there's anything kind of particularly current that might be useful for you. Next slide. One of the central features of the British Dyslexia Association services is our national helpline. And we receive, you know, a vast number of queries every day from all sorts of different people, whether they're parents or teachers or people with dyslexia themselves, or people who think they might be dyslexic and don't really know where they can get support. So what the helpline actually does is it can signpost people to the right kind of services. So in fact, it might signpost to AbilityNet's accessibility tools, for example, or we may signpost to an assessment service if you're looking, you know, if you're looking for yourself or for someone you know, looking for an assessment service. And in fact, the BDA have recently, because as a charitable organisation, we've fundraised for those in the community with dyslexia, and we've been able to offer bursaries this year as well to help fund assessments for those people who are on low incomes, who otherwise may not be able to go through the assessment process. So the helpline is kind of a really good sort of first contact really for just any advice and guidance that you might want. Next slide. We also run training sessions, which I'm responsible for, and we do a whole load of different types of training. So there's e-learning, there's virtual training, there's face-to-face courses. We can offer bespoke training as well in your workplace, to, you know, kind of anything from 5 to 105, dependent on what your particular needs are. And we try and make sure that those are, you know, can be designed specifically around your particular needs. And we also train a very large number of specialist teachers and assessors throughout the year as well. So, you know, with the view that as part of our charitable status, we're kind of improving awareness and sending specialist staff back out into the community and into education as well. Next slide. As a supplementary to what we do within sort of education institutions, we do also work with people in the workplace to support neurodiversity. So we offer workplace needs assessments, as well as we've just recently relaunched our dyslexia friendly quality mark as well, which is really about kind of recognising inclusive practice in the workplace. So if you work with an organisation who who potentially would like to champion dyslexia support, then the dyslexia friendly quality mark would be a really good place to start for that. Next slide. And as a charitable organisation, we also have a fundraising division, and we encourage, people, not just people with dyslexia themselves, but anybody who maybe has supported those with dyslexia, or who has, has a personal interest in this area, to help us raise money, really, which feeds into things like our helpline and our training courses, and also provides us an opportunity to offer things like bursary services. Next slide. And finally, we do have a monthly e-newsletter. So if you are interested in finding out a little bit more about what the BDA do, the British Dyslexia Association does, and the kind of things that it offers, you can sign up to our regular e-newsletter and get some kind of up-to-date stories about, what the work that we've been doing and the people that we've been connecting with through our work. So that's a little bit about the BDA and what we do. And, as I said, I think part of, the Dyslexia Awareness Week has really been about kind of, championing the kind of work that's going on across all sorts of different organisations, and AbilityNet, obviously, a key to that, kind of sending that word out around, the fact that dyslexia doesn't have to be a barrier to achieving success, either at school or in the workplace, or even in your own personal lives. Everybody's dyslexia is different, and for some of us it can bring us challenges, but it can also be particular strengths as well. And as part of the work that we do, we're very much keen to kind of raise that as well, and talk about the positives that those with dyslexia can bring, particularly in a workforce environment.
Thank you so much, Catherine, for that introduction to the British Dyslexia Association. There's lots going on and so much support and guidance available. And just a kind of reminder to everyone, you will be able to access all the slides and the QR codes and everything via the webinar page, which is /Tech Tools Dyslexia. Okay, great. So now I'd like to bring in Adam and Rena into the conversation and pose a few questions to you all on a panel discussion. And then afterwards, we'll be taking questions from you as attendees. So do drop your questions. I can see there's loads in there already. So if you drop them into the Q&A box for our speakers, and we'll try to cover them towards the end of the webinar. So the first question that I was going to pose to you all, starting with Rena, what are the common issues that people with dyslexia might face in the workplace and in education, particularly regarding tech use?
Hello, my name's Rena. And yeah, so in terms of challenges for myself and slightly more generally for people with dyslexia, what I am going to preface this with is I'm also autistic, so it's sometimes difficult to separate the challenges that I face because of my dyslexia and the challenges that I face because of my autism. So I've tried quite hard to try and limit this to dyslexia, right? So just to start off by listing some, so things like organisation, interpreting questions, reading just in generally, working under pressure. Everything gets kind of more challenging when I'm working under pressure. Processing speeds, and this is one where it's hard to define whether it's autism or dyslexia or both of them, but in terms of like processing both written and verbal information can take longer. I have the world's worst working memory. Tell me something and 5 minutes later I'll have forgotten it. But give me some random fact about the colour of Harrods bags, I can remember that. It's just the useful stuff that I forget. And also like forming sentences. So kind of thinking about what I want to say, thinking about the words that I need to say it with, bringing those words to mind, putting them in the right order, and then saying it is something that I struggle with sometimes. You can probably hear it because I'm saying a lot, trying to work out what my next word is supposed to be. But yeah, so in terms of like text specifically, things like using websites and documents, not having massive like blocks of text is really useful. So being able to separate that out is really useful. So like walls of text are a particular challenge. The brightness of screens and things like that, so the glare can get challenging to read stuff on. That sort of thing. I'm trying not to like venture into the other questions that we've got. I think that's most of the things, unless yeah, I think that's most of the things that I wanted to say.
Okay, no, thank you for highlighting those. Catherine and Adam, did you have other suggestions or from your experience, any particular common issues that come up?
I think one of the things that I would say is that you know, because dyslexia is so multifaceted, often the assumption of other people is that it is only about reading and writing, and often those other elements that actually really you've really, you know, kind of talked about in you know, a little bit of depth there, is around things like organisation and how you might respond to questions from people if you're sort of, you know, expected to process that information quite quickly. Things like you know, kind of your energy levels as well. You know, people don't necessarily think about that as being part of dyslexia. And I think the challenge within the workplace is that, you know, there is so much information that, you know, can come at us and we're expected to process swiftly, whether that's written information or whether it's verbal information. You know, there are difficulties with doing that within the timeframes that you've got. So I think, you know, the brilliant thing about a lot of the tech tools and some of the couple of tools that Adam mentioned is that what they can often do is to take some of that load off the working memory and off the processing speed, so that then your thinking space has got more capacity to actually deal with the issue you're supposed to be dealing with. So, you know, for example, the text reading software, you know, if you're actually hearing the text rather than having to use your processing capacity to decode those words, you've got the technology is doing that part of it for you, and then you may find that actually you can take in the information much more effectively. Because one of the things in terms of reading difficulties for people with dyslexia might not necessarily be the accuracy, it might not be the visual disturbance that has been described previously. It might be about being able to keep the text stable, being able to read accurately and being able to do it at speed, and also remember what it is you've read and understand what you've read. And so it's because it's so multifaceted, and the same is true really of writing, that often with different dyslexic profiles you find that one element is maybe is less effective than another. So where the technology can come in is it can take some of the burden of some of that part of the task away. And in the workplace, I think it's really important that employers recognise the need for people with all sorts of different neurodiversities. It's not necessarily just dyslexia that can create a problem with a challenge with reading speed. You know, it's important that employers recognise that and allow individuals to use technology to support them. And I think perhaps less in the workplace, but certainly within schools, one of the big problems we have is a lot of the technology is available for free through your mobile phone. But if you're in a workplace or an institution that don't permit that, that seems to be rather putting up a barrier that's unnecessary and might, you know, hinder how effective you can be in the workplace. So I think, you know, it's so important to recognise that dyslexia isn't just one thing. It can be a multitude of different things and not always just based on those literacy tasks. So in fact, it was really interesting, that simulator that Rena showed where the numbers go the wrong way around. And that's something that potentially, you know, we might not associate necessarily with dyslexia, because we hang up on this idea that dyslexia is just about reading. But actually it might, or reading words, it's not. It can be about reading numbers as well. And, you know, kind of factoring that in is so important when we're making sure we are adjusting and enabling people to make choices about how they can best access information in the workplace.
Yeah, I don't know, Adam, did you have anything to add to that question before?
Nothing really to add, as I mean, comprehensive answers from both Rena and Catherine. The only thing that I think I was going to say has completely slipped my mind now. Talk about processing difficulties. But yes, it's that I think that the issue is where we build environments where we expect everybody to learn and work in the same way. And if we start building in flexibility to say, well, you might benefit from listening to this, you might want to read this, you might be dyslexic and you prefer reading. That's, you know, we can flex to allow that through the use of the tech that we have available to us. So don't limit people from being able to leverage the tech, as Catherine said, that mobile phones are fantastic platforms to help people out, and just allow these environments to flex to suit people's best ways of working. And that way you're going to get the best out of your students and out of your workforce.
Well, very good points. I'm very conscious of time. We've got two questions left. I'd like to raise the next question, question 2, about can you highlight some of the things that web designers and content editors might be able to do to make things easier, or that need to be considered for a visitor with dyslexia? But if you're able to keep your answers brief on this one, I know Rena's got some great tools to highlight for the question afterwards, and then we'll have lots of time left for questions from attendees. That would be great. Yeah, starting with Rena, if you've got anything to highlight for web designers and content editors to bear in mind.
So my first one is use your white space on. It doesn't have to be white, it's just the name of it. It's confusing, I know, but use space on the website or the content to your advantage. You know, break up blocks of text. Don't have like a complete wall of text when you reach the website. Have like a paragraph and then like a decent space, so like maybe a line or a line and a half, and then another paragraph. Things like avoid imposing time limits or allow people to extend them. So like if you're booking a ticket, it can be really difficult to process the information that you need to book that ticket before the timer runs out. But if I can just press extend, I don't feel pressured, and I can think clearly. Let people use their own styles on websites and things. So things like fonts and colors and text spacing. Just let people use whatever they feel most comfortable with. It's not specific to dyslexia. It could be some other thing, but that way that they have the control over what they're seeing. Things like be really clear about what you want. So like if you're asking for a postcode, like ask me for a postcode. Don't be like, where do you live? I'm like, well, I live on this road in this town at this house number in this city at this postcode in this country on this planet. It's like, which part of this do you want? You want a postcode? Ask me for a postcode. And then I don't have to process what you're trying to ask me. And things like, if you can, if like I'm booking something, if I can have like what do you call it, like an export to a calendar that like I click it, I download it and it goes straight into my calendar, that's great, because then I don't have to process the information I'm given, produce the information I need and insert it into my own calendar. Like it gets done automatically for me, which is really good. So yeah, those are the things that I wanted to say.
Wonderful. A very comprehensive list, but Catherine and Adam, do shout if you want to add anything to that particular question.
I think Rena's pretty much covered it. What I would say is just make sure whatever content you're putting out is adaptable. And I think, you know, that's the key, because, you know, there's you know, you could try and predict and say, oh, well, if I use this background, that's supposed to be good for a dyslexic learner. That colour may not be suitable for a dyslexic learner, or it might not be suitable for somebody with a different disability. But so the key thing is I think making sure that things are flexible and that there is then the choice, as Rena said, to be able to adapt and change font sizes, change colours, change content. But I think, you know, that kind of immediate presentation is less is more. I think, you know, take away the fuss. that you get. And I think, sometimes designers like to make things kind of, stand out by making them more elaborate and making them pretty. But actually, for somebody with dyslexia, if you can't adjust that, that's just going to be distracting or more difficult to read, and therefore you're not going to get your message across because it's too fussy. So I think, adaptability and less is more would be my two top things on that.
Excellent, thank you.
Oh, I've got one more. Allow people to use autofill. So like if I get to a form and it's asking me all my information, if I can just like tap one button and it inserts all of my information, great. If I get to a form and it's like, what's your name? And it's like, I don't have the option to fill my name. I'm like, great, I have to type it out. And I know my name is short because this Rena's my nickname. My name is not short. So then I have to type it all out. So yeah, let me autofill. It just reduces the amount of processing I have to do.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. So Adam, unless you have anything else, I can move on to the last question.
No, I'm keeping still on this.
That's all right. So yeah, I just wanted to highlight just that, we've talked about lots of suggestions for at work and in education, but are there particular tools or tech that we haven't discussed so far that are particularly useful in home scenarios? So yeah, over to Catherine, Rena and Adam. Yeah, Rena, I know you mentioned you had some tools that you'd recently discovered that would be useful.
Yeah, it was like, was it end of last week, at the weekend or something? I found this app. It's called Structured, and it's great. It's like you insert all of the stuff you've got and you get like a timeline of what you've got to do and when you've got to do it. You can set up like alerts. Some things you can have like, like 7 or 8 alerts on throughout the day. So if you're going to like forget to do it, it gives you a warning. So it's like, in 5 minutes you have to do this thing, and I'm like, great, I can stop what I'm doing, and then in 5 minutes goes, you have to do this thing now. I'm like, I'm ready to do that now. It's brilliant. I absolutely love it. But yeah, just kind of using your tech to help you kind of plan and organize what you've got to do, using it to help you remember what tasks you've got to do. It could also, like Adam was showing earlier, read stuff out to you. Also things like setting color filters on your phone and your computer and things like that. I love dark mode. I love night mode, which takes a lot of the blue light out of the screen, so it's less tiring to look at. Those are the main ones I had for this.
Thank you, Rena. Catherine, did you have any additional suggestions?
I think as well as the kind of text reading and text to speech that Adam talked about, I would say, the kind of one of the biggest go-tos I would, suggest for somebody with dyslexia, and myself included, is things that help you to organise yourself, because I think that is certainly an element of dyslexia that often gets overlooked. And there are loads of brilliant free tools. I think, it's worth playing around with them, trying them out, seeing what works for you. And then also looking to see what can be adaptable for different scenarios. So the ones I really like are ones which sync in with both your desktop or your laptop when you're working, but also sync to your mobile phone as well. So things like Trello or Google Keep. I really like Google Keep because it works on the basis of post-it notes, which I love. And there's other ones like 24Me. Structured sounds like it's a similar organizational tool. There are a lot. It's worth talking to other people and see what they've tried and recommended, but do try them out, give them a go, because what works for one person won't necessarily work for you. But there's so much out there that it's worth giving that a go, because you don't have to do the hard work of organization yourself. There's tools that will do it for you.
Thank you. Over to you, Adam.
I was just going to say, somebody in the chat or in the Q&A beat me to it, but Goblin Tools. It's an AI-powered organizational tool, and it's not only very useful, but it's also great fun as well. So it's goblin.tools, I think, is the address for it. And yeah, have a play, see what I can do. It's amazing. And then obviously there are a lot of AI tools. So ChatGPT is a constant companion of mine. So that sounds very sad, doesn't it? No, I mean, I've got human companions, but it's a working tool.
Well, thank you. Yeah. I think I'll wrap up there just so we've got some time for questions from attendees. And I just a note to Freya, we were going to do a poll, but I think just so that we can have as much time as possible for attendee questions, I think we'll skim past that and just move straight on to the Q&A. So yeah, as I can see, you've already been doing, do put your questions in the Q&A window, and you know, we won't be able to cover everything right now, but unanswered questions will be captured and added to our website in the next few days, and you'll be sent a link to access them. So just sifting through the 52 questions that are here, there's one that is I think something that comes up fairly regularly, which is a question from Rachel, is about the use of language to refer to someone who has dyslexia. Do we say person with dyslexia or dyslexic person? I imagine this comes up for you, Catherine, quite a bit within the British Dyslexia Association.
Yeah, I think you know, we've sort of gone through waves of how we, you know, might choose to identify people with dyslexia or identify ourselves. So I'm an out and proud dyslexic, you know, but I know, you know, not everybody is comfortable with that term. So person with dyslexia takes the emphasis off the dyslexia being the kind of leading identity. So, you know, for some people, they prefer that. And I think, you know, whilst it can be a little bit of a minefield, I think it's always just best to ask people how they would like to be referred to, and listen also to when they're talking about it, how do they refer to themselves, you know, because that's probably the way they would choose then to want to be referred to. So I think that would always be my lead. And I think, you know, the thing is with dyslexia is just, you know, having the opportunity to talk about it and to explain, you know, what that means to each individual, because it will mean something different to everyone.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Yeah, hopefully that answers your question, Rachel. So just going to move on to another question. Is a question for Adam from Ali. What are your thoughts on Grammarly as a tool compared with Immersive Reader? You know, can you highlight the differences or the benefits?
They have both got their positives. Immersive Reader is very good because it's kind of it's present on a lot of operating systems. It's there straight away, whereas Grammarly, I know there's a free version, but that's an installation version. Grammarly corrects grammar. Immersive Reader is not going to do the corrections. It's more of a tool just to hear stuff back. Having said that, there was also another great comment in the Q&A as well about using something like Immersive Reader to proofread. So that's something that I do. So if you've written something, it's much better to hear it read back to you using something like the Immersive Reader, because it's much easier to hear mistakes than it is when you're reading, because you read as you think you've written it. You won't get that with Grammarly, but then you'll get the Grammarly kind of tools that will check as you go. So they are really kind of very, very different pieces of software. So it's quite difficult to give a direct comparison there. But yeah, they can be used alongside each other and would be even more supportive.
Okay, thank you. And then a final question for Rena, just a really brief response if you can. We've just got a couple of things to mention. What tools or apps might you recommend to help with structure and organisation of writing? Are there particular things that you use?
In terms of structuring my writing, I don't really use any tools. I either waffle and don't get the point across at all, in which case people just ask me more questions, or like I'm quite direct because of my autism. I'm like, this is the point I want to make, so I literally do like 4 words and I've made my point, and then that becomes an issue in like my uni work, which I've just finished at uni, where my autism, I had an autism support skills person who would be like, you need to add more detail to that, and help me to write academic waffle. It's not like waffle, but it's academic waffle. Yeah. So I'll do some research on that one and I'll add it to the Q&A that we send out after the webinar, because I'm not 100% sure on that.
All right, great. And
And
yeah,
perhaps just say there's mind mapping is a good one to apply for structuring writing. And there's, again, either mind mapping on a piece of paper, or there's tech tools for it as well. So there's a lot of, again, lots of free tools. There's Cobble through Google, you know, and there's, you know, lots of tools that some of those also help with productivity and organisation as well. But certainly a mind mapping approach often works well for dyslexic learners, because it allows you to think rather more organically and a bit chaotically, and then you can actually move this around. So it gives more flexibility and then can help with the structure as well. That would be my tip.
Thanks so much, and thank you to everybody for all your questions. Like I said, we'll gather them up and respond to them on the website in the next few days. So thank you everyone, Catherine, Rena, Adam, Christy with my clear text today, and my colleagues Louise and Freya, who are helping in the background. I did just want to share a little bit more information that might be of interest. So Freya, if you're able to show the slides again, that would be great. Thank you. So just as mentioned, AbilityNet offers free IT support at home and online. So you can find out more at abilitynet.org.uk. We have fact sheets and webinars on our website, and you can call our helpline at 0800 048 7642. And if you are interested in being a volunteer, if you have tech skills that you'd like to share, then do get in contact at /volunteer. And then on the next slide, we also run online training sessions about digital accessibility and inclusion. And you can find out more at /training. If you use the code AbilityNet Webinar 10 when booking, you can save 10%. So coming up, we have inclusive and accessible recruitment, how to create accessible documents and presentations, and PDF accessibility. So they're coming up in October and November. And we also have options for staff training about e-learning. So we have a focus on accessible content at /accessible-content-resources. So do check that out. And then just finally, you can sign up to our newsletter at /newsletter. We have accessibility services for all types of organisations. And then don't forget about our next free webinars, which you can access at /webinars. And the next one coming up is sharing our digital attitudes to digital accessibility survey results, and that's on the 31st of October. So thanks again to everyone who's joined us. Please do complete the feedback form you'll be directed to, and we'll be in touch with you soon. Bye everyone.
Bye.